Thursday. You know what that means? It's the premiere of Talking Jersey City. Folks, yes, brought to you by the Jersey First Television Network and the Jersey City Times. Well, I want to welcome you here on, the inaugural edition on this, the 23rd of January in 2025. And we're covering a lot in Hudson County's largest city. We'll be doing that all throughout the year. Yes, folks, I am the host and executive producer of Real Talk via Jersey First TV Fernando Uribe. And he is the distinguished editor of the Jersey City Times, Aarron Morrill. Aarron, how are you? Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year, Fernando. Great to see you.
Great to see you. And folks, again, do me a favor. It takes 2 seconds. Like, comment, and share on all of your social media platforms, whether you're watching right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, as well as on Twitter. Folks, drop a comment there in the comment section. We'll take some questions tonight if you got them about everything Jersey City. And again, we're looking forward to hearing from you. And again, folks, we love the engagement, and we appreciate you taking time on this Thursday evening to tune into the premiere of Talking Jersey City. Aarron, great holiday season for me. Great traffic, for, as you know, with Real Talk. I know great stuff with the Jersey City Times. Let's sort of delve into it. What were some things that really stood out in 2024 that the Jersey City Times was covering?
Well, the story that interested me the most and continues to interest me the most is the takeover of CarePoint by Hudson Regional Hospital. That's an ongoing story. I think there's more to be said about it. There are issues involving the acquiring company, that's Hudson Regional Hospital. And I think the public's going to be interested to focus in on that. I think that there are a lot of people really worried about whether Christ Hospital in Jersey City will continue to be there for the kind of care, for especially the charity care that it's known for people without health insurance, people who may not be documented. They serve a big population, particularly poorer people. And I think people are scared about that. The problem with the Hudson Regional Hospital takeover, at least the concerns people have, relate to the fact that it's a for-profit hospital, and they may not necessarily find serving that community a winning strategy from a for-profit perspective. And the other thing that concerns people is the piece of land that Christ Hospital sits on, which has fantastic views of Manhattan and has always been considered prime real estate for development. So there are a lot of moving parts in this. CarePoint, as people probably know, is in bankruptcy right now. The Hudson Regional Hospital intends to take it over into a new chain, which would include Bayonne and Hoboken. So there's more to come out on that story. It's something everybody should be concerned about, obviously.
What are you hearing about maybe another hospital or another network maybe trying to sort of swoop in and maybe try to, I guess, get involved with it? Again, it looks like a prime type of entity where maybe other networks might see the value in it as well and may say, you know what, let's jump in here, and if it creates a bidding war, then maybe so be it. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
Well, that's an interesting question. There was a hospital in Michigan, the name will escape me at this moment, that was very close to taking over Christ Hospital, and they were it looks like they were kind of pushed out in favor of Hudson Regional. And I should point out, I did some reporting on this, that Hudson Regional, or the principals of Hudson Regional and the hospital, have been major donors to Mayor Steve Fulop, to the tune of over, all told, over $1.5 million to his super PAC, Coalition for Progress. So they seem to have the Hudson Regional Hospital principals are in for about $600,000. The previous owner of CarePoint, a guy named Vivek Garapalli, gave Fulop $1 million some time ago. I think Garapalli still has a small interest in the land, but there's a lot of money involved. potential development. And I think it seems like Hudson Regional has the inside track on this. Not only does Steve Fulop seem to like them, who wouldn't when you've gotten over $1.5 million from different people associated with this deal, but I think he wants to go ahead with it. Yeah.
Now, aside from this great story, because obviously I think it's something to keep an eye out for, not just for this year. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an ongoing issue for the next couple of years. I mean, without question. I mean, this is not a process that can sort of resolve overnight. What other big topics, obviously, as we closed out 2024? Because I know the traffic and I know the readership really was great for you guys over there at the Jersey City Times. What other stories stood out for you last year?
Well, last year, obviously, Liberty State Park was a huge issue for a lot of people. It seems like the tide turned in favor of the park protectionists, if you will, the people that want to keep it sort of a green refuge from a green space, a refuge from the harsh urban environment we live in. It looks like the plan that Paul Fireman, the billionaire that owns Liberty National Golf Club, put forth to build stadiums there. It looks like that is not going to happen. I mean, it seems pretty certain it's not going to happen if you believe Sean LaTourette, the head of the DEC. So yeah, I think that was a huge story. There's some continuing fights now about the expansion of the marina, and there's going to be a meeting, I believe, this weekend that will be dealing with that. And I know Sam Pessin of Friends of Liberty State Park has come out against the expansion. There's a lot of interest in the park, but it looks like the forces of park preservation and green space have won over the plan to put what was called a mini Meadowlands in the park.
I mean, Aarron, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously you've been on my show before on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. We've talked about this at length. And, again, listen, I'm as someone that's concerned about the environment. Obviously, I mean, maybe ideologically we might be a little bit different on it, right? But I think that at the end of the day, I looked at Liberty State Park as an opportunity. Now, listen, again, for everyone watching at home, it is a state park. It's not a county park. It's a state park, obviously under the jurisdiction of the department, obviously in Trenton, in various departments. But I think at the end of the day, I looked at it as maybe a piece of land could have been used, though, Aarron, in the sense of if a small amphitheater could be built, which would benefit local schools in Jersey City, for example, all the high schools. There's nothing more unsettling than going to high school graduations in buildings that are falling apart. Let's be fair, right? And where I live in North Hudson in Union City, I mean, listen, for anyone that knows about Union City High School, I mean, there's a stadium on top of the building. Okay, I mean, it's one of the best state-of-the-art high schools in the state. But not every high school has those amenities. And I sort of just looked at a small piece of land where you can have a small amphitheater for that. Instead of maybe going down the shore during the summer, right? Listen, I like a good concert like anybody else, going to the PNC Backyard Center. But my God, driving down the parkway is a pain in the summer. It's laborious. If there was something at Liberty State Park that would help revenue into the area. Now, again, it's a state park. No one's saying, a 30,000 seat arena, but a small arena of that caliber, would it be the worst thing though, Aarron?
Well, no, it wouldn't be the worst thing. And there are going to be playing fields built on the south side of the park and on the north side of the park along the marina. So, and I believe there is going to be a stadium of some size. I cannot remember exactly what the size is, but the issue so Fireman's group actually did score a win in the sense that my understanding is this is the first time that a New Jersey park has actually put in, a state park has put in playing fields. I may be wrong. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I did hear a statistic like that this is kind of unprecedented, and that if Fireman wants to boast about something that he accomplished, I think he did accomplish getting a lot more in the park than anybody expected he would get, and that was planned. But I think you're bringing up a larger question, which is the question of athletic facilities in Jersey City generally. And that's something I wrote about, and we wrote an editorial about. And that is the fact that we don't have recreation centers in Jersey City. We don't have any really meaningful public recreation centers. If you go to North Bergen, you'll see a brand new one that was built. If you go to Bayonne, you'll see a big rec center with swimming pools. Nothing has been built in Jersey City under this mayor, and he now is in his third term. And not much was built by the prior mayor either, although there was a plan to create one in the old, I believe it was the YMCA on Bergen Avenue, is it? And the mayor, our present mayor, did not follow up on that plan, and it is not a rec center. We, from an editorial standpoint, took the view that kids in Jersey City, especially kids, need rec centers. They need a place to go after school. They need organized activities. If you want to cut down the crime rate and you want to keep kids out of trouble, having been an adolescent boy at one time and having gotten into my own share of trouble, you got to keep kids busy and you got to keep them doing meaningful stuff. And this is, I think, one of the most frustrating things, I think, from the standpoint of people who want to address the needs of these kids. And that actually segues to another story from last year, which, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, which was the story of Pompidou. And as anybody knows who reads Jersey City Times, we have from the very beginning been 100% opposed to Pompidou. I'm sort of wearing my reportorial hat and editorial hat here at the same time, but that's what you have to do when you're a tiny little operation like we are. The city has now committed itself to a $150 million abatement. It's basically, we're giving up $150 million in taxes to buy a big box in a new building that the Kushners are building in Journal Square. Yeah. Our view is that $150 million could have bought us rec centers all over the city rather than an art museum that nobody actually asked for. Yeah. And that is not going to address the needs of so many kids around the city that need a place to go, need things to do. It has been a source of constant frustration to see Pompidou proceed. Now, the big story was that the state cut off funding to Pompidou. Governor Murphy cut it off. Mayor Fulop said it was as retribution for his pulling his support from Tammy Murphy.
Well, but Aarron, to be fair, the timing was kind of interesting, right? Like it.
I think it was more than interesting. I think the mayor's probably right, and I don't agree with the mayor on a lot, but it did seem like that might have been the what do they call it? The casus belli, was pulling his support for Tammy Murphy. I don't know why the mayor needed to support Andy Kim. I think he was on his way to winning anyway. So I'm not sure it was the smartest political move. But he pulled his support of Tammy Murphy. And those of us who were against Pompidou were happy to see the governor pull support, even if it wasn't for the purest of motives. And, the mayor, not one to ever, admit defeat, he proposed a new plan in concert with the Kushners, where he gave them this abatement in exchange for this big white box. The cost is going to be $23 million a year to run this thing. Nobody knows where that's going to come from. And it's also going to cost millions to build out this white box. Yeah. So the financial the financial problems continue and questions continue.
Well, listen, it's something that we have to keep an eye out for, right? And obviously going into the new year, it sort of helps us segue into an issue where the mayoral candidates in Jersey City are weighing in on the Pompidou. We know that former governor and current mayoral candidate Jim McGreevey has come out against it. I'm not sure where the other candidates stand, but
Solomon's come out against it. He initially went along with Pompidou with the MOU that they signed back in, what was it, 22?
Around there.
21, 22. He initially voted in favor, I believe, of the MOU and signing the MOU, and they spent about $12 million just on architects and consultants for the Pathside building. That money is pretty much wasted before Murphy pulled his funding, and now they've got to start afresh with this new white box they're getting. So 12 million is down the drain. As far as Musab Ali, Bill O'Day, they have not been clear on their position. I think Musab Ali has spoken out against Pompidou. Bill O'Day has been a little bit more on the fence, I think. Joyce Waterman, of course, can't come out against it. She's been with the mayor on this from the very beginning.
Well, I'll say this. It's interesting where an issue like this can be divisive for residents, though, right? Where at the end of the day, listen, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about being fiscally responsible. And you don't have to talk to me about this. I'm a fiscal conservative. I want to make sure we're not wasting money if we don't have to. And I think, to your point, with everything that residents in Jersey City need, seniors, and again, and we'll sort of get to the candidates in a minute. Again, I'm not sure if you caught my interview with Jim McGreevey a couple of weeks ago, Aarron. It was a really good interview, easily 15,000 views on that episode. But he was interested in really addressing recreation. And to your point, where previous mayors have have overlooked recreation and not really given it the due diligence that it deserves. I would argue, dude, don't be surprised if recreation programs is a big talking point in this mayoral cycle with all these candidates, because they're all going to have something to say about trying to help, obviously, kids in Jersey City. To your point, again, I was a boy too, right? We all did stupid things as little boys, and we all got ourselves into trouble. I think recreation programs don't be surprised if it becomes a major talking point for all these candidates as the year is progressing in Jersey City, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would hope that it does. The problem is we've now spent 150 million, or committed to spending 150 million dollars on a white box in Journal Square, and so we don't have the financial flexibility, I would think, that we might have had we not done that deal. These things cost a lot of money. Taxes are way up. I think there's going to be a revolt if taxes go any higher. And so I think that $150 million deal with the Kushners has really hemmed us in terms of the money we have to spend on something like building recreation centers, which aren't cheap. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, the building in North Bergen, I think, was between 20 and 30 million. And these things are expensive. So you want to build one in each ward, you're talking about $150 million that you need. And that's now committed to a white box in Journal Square.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, in North Bergen, great rec area. There's a soccer field on top of it. Obviously, we're seeing Union City also leading the way when it comes to building rec centers. We're seeing in West New York, that's big on the agenda for the new administration there. A lot of municipalities, right? It seems to be like a big issue in Hoboken. Obviously, one of the big stories I know you've been covering now to start the year, though. And folks, again, if you're just joining right now, welcome to the premiere edition of Talking Jersey City here with Aarron Morrill, the editor of the Jersey City Times. Of course, I'm Fernando Uribe, the host of Real Talk via the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, like, comment, and share. It takes 2 seconds on all your social media platforms. And drop a comment here as we are live. Again, if you have a question for either of us, we'll happily take it on the program. Again, just for future notice. I know you've been all over this, man. Obviously, a big fourth quarter when it comes to fundraising numbers for a lot of the candidates running for mayor. Obviously, to no one's surprise, Ward 8 Councilman James Solomon had a very good fourth quarter, raising over $800,000. obviously for the year, including $340,000 in quarter four. As of, look at these numbers, man. I mean, these are big numbers for Councilman Solomon. Obviously, Bill O'Day, another strong quarter for him to end out in 2024. Obviously, former Governor Jim McGreevey, another good number here. Musa Ali, I know, just had a fundraiser recently. Look at some numbers here according to ELEC, apparently having over $169,000 cash in hand. We haven't seen anything for Joyce Waterman. It's only January, though, man, and the election's not until November. What are you hearing about maybe any other candidates maybe entering the field?
I'm not hearing anything. And I think you'd be crazy to enter the field at this point with so many people in it and people who are very well financed. I mean, we've got Solomon and McGreevy's already over well over $1 million, and I believe O'Day is as well or close to it. It's going to be a record-breaking election. Financially, in terms of the amount of money that's raised, and it's so early. God, at the rate McGreevy's going, he's going to have $2 million pretty soon, and it's going to be super expensive. You'd have to be incredibly, well supported to jump into this race. Who has sort of the standing in Jersey City besides these guys to jump in? Well, I don't know, Frank Gilmore. I don't think he's going to run.
Running on Solomon's ticket. Was that announced already?
That's if he's actually aligned with Solomon at this point. I'm not clear on that, but I know they're allies. I don't know that he's actually on the slate specifically at this point.
Well, it's kind of interesting though, man, because obviously we're 11 months away, but we know that the county register at some point during probably right around Labor Day is going to have to print out these ballots. Bro, I got to tell you, if we're looking at this field as it is now, and we're talking about, all the at-large, all the wards, bro, I got to tell you, it might look like a scroll out of something from King Arthur's court. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be tedious. And again, there's no county line. So I think looking at a ballot, dude, coming up later this year with, let's say, again, no disrespect to the council president, we'll see where Dr. Joyce Waterman stands in a few months. Obviously, if she's not raising money, she might have to obviously withdraw from the race. Same can be said about Musa Ali. Again, I want democracy. I want as many people involved as possible. But realistically, though, man, it seems like it's going to be Jim McGreevey, Bill O'Day, and Solomon going for this in November. I seriously doubt someone wins it on election night. It might go to a runoff. But even before we get there, it looks like these tickets are going to be extensive. And I got to tell you, man, when we're seeing, obviously, different incumbents running, obviously, Councilman Rich Marciano is on the McGreevey ticket. I believe Frank Gilmore, I think, is with Solomon. I'm not sure. I have to look at that to be sure.
Yeah, I got to check that too. I've been sort of scratching my head about that because I didn't think that there was an announcement, even though they're very close. They've been very close.
We've seen Councilman Mira Prince Array has yet to be on a ticket. I believe also Yusuf Saleh. And folks, by the way, if you missed my interview with Yusuf Saleh, check it out on Real Talk. It was definitely very, very insightful. He's a guy on an island as well. He's not on a ticket.
That's right.
And he's an incumbent. Interesting, and I've talked to a few people as to, why. Yusuf checks off a lot of boxes. He's young. I mean, listen, I'm biased. I'm a Rutgers alum like him, so obviously I'm going to pull for a guy like that. But, he's not like, he's pretty moderate. He's done a good job in that ward, considering that he had to, succeed Councilman Yoon there, obviously during COVID. Interesting to see him on an island right now. I mean, obviously there's so many months to go. We're looking at, obviously, Councilman DeGise will now be running for re-election. We know that, obviously, as well, there's a lot of moving parts here. It just looks like this ballot might look like, I don't know, dude, it might hurt my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been following Jersey City politics that long. I know when Brett Schindler won, there were about 10 candidates on the, and he squeaked, through as a Republican because there were so many people on the ballot. And I think it's going to look a little bit like that election. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I think that the nice thing is that I think there's some talent among these guys and women or woman, and I think Jersey City is getting a nice sort of smorgasbord of options here. You have Solomon, who comes from a fairly I think clear progressive position. You have McGreevy, who is is more sort of a traditional meat and potatoes Democrat, establishment Democrat, but sort of more old school. I think Solomon is a little more of the modern sort of AOC wing. I don't know if he's going to get mad at me for that, but maybe that's a little too far left for him. But I think he is of the progressive mindset. And then you have Musab Ali is interesting. I'm not quite sure where Musab fits in ideologically. He's so far, he hasn't fleshed out all of his views. We did run an op-ed of his today on transit and on congestion pricing, which is very well written. People should take a look at that. Joyce Waterman, I think, I like Joyce Waterman personally. Every time I talk to her, she's an affable person. There's something it's hard not to like Joyce Waterman. However, she has Steve Fulop wrapped around her neck, and at least when I look at what people are writing online, and that's kind of where I get my anecdotal information as to where people are. People are just seeing her as an extension or continuation of Steve Fulop, and at this point, I don't think Steve Fulop is very popular in Jersey City, at least anecdotally. There's maybe one person online that I see defending him consistently, maybe two, but the vast majority of people I see online talking about politics, want the door to hit him on the back as he leaves. And then O'Day is also, he's kind of sort of this interesting blue collar guy who, is rumpled and kind of, you get the feeling he's telling you how he feels, and he's there's something authentic about him, and he's got a lot of union support. It's each one of them is interesting in their own way. I mean, they bring different things. I think what's good is that I think they provide some really interesting choices for people.
I mean, it's early, and not to delve into this because you brought up the mayor, but again, I'm not sure if you saw an Emerson poll that came out today. The first person I thought of was you. I was like, oh, Aaron's probably having a beer at 9 a.m. when he heard this poll. I don't know if you saw it. It was an Emerson poll.
I didn't. Tell me.
Okay, so the Emerson poll was looking at the governor's race, right? So I'm not going to mention the Republican one, obviously. More about the Democrat one here because I think it's really relevant. Check out these numbers. Leading the poll was Mikey Sherrill at 10%. At second, tied for second, both at 8%, NGA president, former Montclair Mayor Sean Spiller, and Newark Mayor Ross Baraka. Current representative in the House, Josh Gottheimer, with 7%. Steve Sweeney, former Senate president, also tied for third at 7%. Steve Fulop is last with 4%, and there's 55% undecided. Now, again, it's January. It's the first major poll from Emerson Polling, which is a pretty good, polling think tank. Again, this isn't scripture, folks. So again, for anyone that's interested at home on the Republican side, Jack Chiarelli, former assemblyman, two-time nominee at 26%. Bill Spadia, the radio personality, at 12%. State Senator John Bradnick at 4%, and 47% are undecided. But not a good number for Steve Fulop right now. A lot of people called me today, though, Aaron, saying, well, what do you think about these numbers? Again, it's early, but if you're Steve Fulop, who was the first declared candidate, seems to have spent a lot of money on ads. Again, if you're watching the NFL playoffs, there's a Steve Fulop ad every game. if you're watching the NBA like I am and getting aggravated by my Lakers, there's a Steve Fulop on TNT. There's a Steve Fulop ad in a lot of different sort of like.
There are billboards. If you drive down the turnpike, you'll see a billboard with Steve Fulop.
So
he has a lot of money. I mean, Steve Fulop.
Again, I don't want to pile on, but a lot of insiders that reached out to me today were like, Fernando, what do you make of this poll? I said, listen, it's the first poll. It's mid-January. I don't think it's time to panic yet. But in a race with legitimately, 6 people running, all you're going to need is 20% to win, in June, to be, if we're being honest about it.
Right. Well, I'm sure Steve Fulop is not happy about that poll, although I'm sure he expected it to some degree. I mean, these are fairly big names he's running against, people who've been in politics and statewide politics, national politics, and so it's not surprising that doesn't have the name recognition, and it is about name recognition. Let's face it, and people are not focused on it. And I would not count Steve Fulop out, even with these numbers. He's an extremely smart guy. I differ with him on many things, but one thing that I will concede is that he is smart, and he's positioning himself in a way that I think also shows his intelligence, which is as an anti-machine politician, which of course those of us who know him know that that's ironic, given the way he's run Jersey City, but it's a smart way to run. And it's it has a lot of appeal. So especially in this time of Bob Menendez, and scandals, and I mean, being anti-machine is a good thing. He's also he seems to have assembled a whole team of candidates around the state.
Listen, there's a lot of tickets in all the legislative districts that he's really been focusing in on. I mean, obviously, this county, obviously all the way down in Atlantic County. So it's definitely a campaign to watch for sure. But again, I'm sure today's polling probably wasn't the best thing to wake up for a cup of coffee to. But
yeah, well, I'll just tell you one more thing. I mean, I went out and saw him, at a meet and greet, out near Montclair, and he's very impressive. Those of us who have been watching him for 3 terms, of course, see him with very jaundiced eyes. But I sat in a room and saw the way he interacts with a group of newbies that don't know him, and he has that sort of boyish, almost Boy Scoutish demeanor, that I think that a lot of people feel is very appealing. And so I was impressed with the way he handled questions, and the way he came across in this meet and greet to people that didn't know him. And I could see how he would be very attractive, because he does know what to say. He really is quite skilled.
Listen, Steve, I know Steve personally, great speaker. He's got a great story. Obviously, we've been seeing the new ads, right? And he's resonating with a lot of people. Now, again, to your point, for those of us that know him in Hudson County, how that plays here is very different than Essex County, Burlington County, Mercer County collectively. But let me get back. Great story. I was obviously here also on the Times. And folks, if you just joined us right now, again, like, comment, and share here. Welcome to the premiere edition of Talking Jersey City, here with Aarron Morrill, the editor of the Jersey Times. Again, check it out at jcitytimes.com. And of course, I'm Fernando Uribe, the host and executive producer of Real Talk via the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, like, comment, and share, and please support us on all your social media platforms here for tonight's premiere edition. You did mention, obviously, you were one of the first ones to jump on this. Also, too, Aarron, obviously, Governor Murphy, who's been kind of quiet lately in terms of endorsements, endorsed former governor and current mayoral candidate Jim McGreevey in the mayor's race. And let me just say this about Jim, because I interviewed Jim a couple of weeks ago. Not sure if you had a chance to watch it. But one of the things I was really adamant about with him, because I'll be talking to Bill O'Day in April, and I'm still trying to coordinate with Councilman Solomon. But what I said to Jim was very simple, and because obviously on election night last November, I was in downtown Jersey City. I went to a lot of different watch parties. I ran into Councilman Solomon, and I know that I said this to him, a lot of his supporters, and I said, listen, same thing I said to Jim, and I'll say the same thing to Bill O'Day. What happened in November happened. Okay, it's 2025. People in Jersey City care about their garbage being picked up on time, services for seniors, rec programs, what's going to happen with property taxes, what's going to happen with abatements, the budget of the city council. These are things that I think are going to matter during this election cycle. And I said, this is Solomon and his supporters. Again, and I want to keep it a PG show, but all the woke nonsense that some progressives fixate on, Aarron, that's not going to matter in this race. Like, people care about the municipal issues. I get it that, we're seeing it with municipal candidates. We're seeing with the legislative candidates, like reproductive rights and this and that and woke and trans this and identity that. Like, people, again, it's just me. I talked to a lot of residents in Jersey City, Aarron, that are just about all the issues I mentioned. And McGreevy, to his credit, took the high road. I wasn't trying to bait him, but I was like, listen, Governor, at the end of the day, these woke talking points, no one's going to care if the streets are paved. No one's going to care about gender and pronouns if seniors aren't getting services from City Hall. So, can we kind of get to the bread and butter of local issues? And it seemed like he was amenable to that. I'm pretty sure Solomon will and O'Day will. What are you hearing about how this race is going to sort of play out, you think?
Well, again, I don't do any of my own polling, although I do see the conversation online that our stories elicit. And of course, that's a self-selecting group. These are people that are very engaged and, read the Jersey City Times. There's a great deal of skepticism about McGreevy's endorsement by Murphy. The look is one of being sort of the machine favorite, and that works against him with a certain downtown demographic that really would like to see a break with the machine. So I'm not clear that the Murphy endorsement is going to help, at least downtown. Solomon has built up a pretty passionate following downtown, but by delivering, I think, pretty good constituent services, he kind of feels like somebody that people downtown would invite over to their house for dinner. And so he's articulate, he's thoughtful, he seems to care about all the right things. Having said that, I agree with you that these bread and butter issues, I think, really are what will win the election for whichever candidate wins. And that is, we haven't talked about crime. We've already had 2 murders in Jersey City in 3 weeks. One very tragic, young people killed, a young girl shot in a drive-by a few nights ago. Crime is going to matter. Clean streets is going to matter. Taxes is going to matter. 911 system is going to matter. Schools matter, even though it's not a mayoral issue. The mayor has to be engaged on that. So I think it is bread and butter issues that will ultimately matter. And I doubt that even Solomon will be running on gender issues or any of what are called woke issues. I think he's a smart guy too. I think he knows it.
He is. Bill's been in the trenches, right? He's been in the wars. Same thing with Jim. Obviously, Jim being a former mayor and then sort of working his way up into the legislature and becoming governor. Obviously, we all know that for anyone that watches CNN, right, all 9 people that watch CNN, Aarron, right, watch that Jake Tapper series about the United States of Scandal. One of the episodes having to be on Jim McGreevy. So I think a lot of people are looking at this race as, here's a guy who is a redemption story for some, right, for many.
Yeah.
having someone like Bill O'Day, who's been in the wars in the trenches, and then we have someone like Councilman Solomon, who again has won 2 races against establishment politics, and now with again it's a municipal race. It's not partisan, where it's not Republicans and Democrats, right? But there's no county line this year, right?
Yeah.
For any election, and I think that that could also play a factor with where, yes, Governor Murphy's endorsement plays a role. It can certainly have an effect on the race. But I think a lot of people that talk to me, Aarron, say to me, hey, remember how people got turned off by Tammy, his wife, at this point last year in 2024?
Right.
There could be a concern for that with Jim. I'm not hearing it as much. I mean, obviously, it was much more blatant. It was his wife, clearly, trying to, run for a Senate seat here, obviously, after Bob Menendez was indicted. It may not have the same effect, but I think that there's a concern by some that, hey, this is a governor that may not be very popular, right? The highest property taxes in the country, spending's out of control, even though conveniently spending's now in priority, not sort of come back on spending. But the point is that McCreevy, I think, could benefit from the Murphy endorsement, but at the same time, it might turn some people off, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of resources that come with having the machine behind you. But it's also a get out the vote, issue, obviously, who gets the vote out. So, this is above my pay grade. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
There's still many months to go. But before we call it a night here, folks, and I really want to ask folks, if you don't read the Jersey City Times, what are you waiting for? Click on jcitytimes.com. Great journalism, great reporting. Listen, if you're a nerd like me that loves to read and loves really well-written columns, folks, you're going to get that with the J City Times. And of course, make sure you check them out. Make sure you follow them, of course, on Twitter as well as Instagram. Also, make sure you like them on Facebook. But Aarron, I got to ask you, because a lot of people said to me, hey, Fernando, you're starting this project with Aarron. Aaron's going to have the decorum in the show. He's going to take the high road because he's the guy that's not going to be as bombastic as you. So that's a good, mix, as they say. Maybe, what's the word? I guess Tony Randall, Jack Klugman, right? From the old hospital days, right?
Is that what we've got going here?
I don't know who to. I don't know who's feeling. Oscar. I don't know. We may have to do a poll on that one, folks. But Aarron, people ask, obviously, the way we get our news has changed dramatically. I think we learned that during the last election cycle. We're seeing legacy media dying out. Now, again, I'm not trying to sort of be, a jerk here, but there are a lot of people in Hudson County that are crying about the Jersey Journal dying out.
Yeah, well,
but we're seeing obviously we're seeing the Jersey Times really, really prospering, and I'm happy for that. I've always been a fan of you. We've talked about for years now. You've been on my show for multiple occasions. People asking why the paywall when maybe people are just struggling to get their news locally through other sites. What's the sort of rationalization for a paywall?
Well, it's financial. It's that simple. We spent 5 years. We just celebrated our 5th anniversary. We spent 5 years basically asking for voluntary contributions, and unfortunately, we couldn't get people to contribute enough voluntarily. It was very, very hard. It's the old adage, why buy the milk when you can get it for free. And and look, I get it. We all have these subscriptions. We're all paying monthly for Netflix and for God knows what else. So I get why people are reluctant to just add one more, monthly payment. But here's the reality. This has been a self-funded effort from day one. It's been something I've done as a labor of love because I felt it was critical for Jersey City. I've got writers, young writers, and old writers that I need to pay. They don't make much. They make very little, nowhere near what they're worth. But I got to pay them. They got to pay rent. And I've got expenses every month. I got to pay, the people that run my website. I've got all kinds of costs. And this can't be a charity it's, forever. This has to become a sustainable business. It's not important to me that Jersey City Times make money, but it's got to become, sustainable. It's got to pay its bills. And it's really important for Jersey City now, more than ever, because we don't have the Jersey Journal, which I wasn't always a huge fan of, but they did important work, and we are really going to miss. We are really going to miss them. I'm going to miss them because I often learned about things that I hadn't thought of myself from reading the. Did we lose you? Fernando, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. You still with me? I'm not sure if it's your Wi-Fi. You still with me? Okay.
Oops, I think I lost you for a second. Okay. I was just saying that, it's a great loss losing the Jersey Journal, despite, my occasional issues with them. Now, more than ever, I hope people will support us because we really want to give you the news that you're not going to get elsewhere. We're covering, the school board meetings. We're covering, the caucus meetings of the city council. We're going out to meetings that nobody else is covering. And we're also covering things like, CarePoint and Christ Hospital. Nobody else is doing that kind of digging and finding out what's going on. This stuff is really critical. I started the Jersey City Times because I knew there were stories that were critical for anybody interested in what was going on in the city that were not being told. And I really hope people will understand that, it's $2.99 a month. It's a cup of coffee. I think we give you a lot more than a cup of coffee. I think you'll really enjoy our content, and you'll know much more about the city you live in, and you'll be entertained. And I just hope we can make it a sustainable business, because if we don't, it's going to be bad for Jersey City. It's just going to be bad for the politics of Jersey City, and God knows what people will be able to do without the spotlight of the news of a news organization shining on them. So, that's why we did it. It's important, and we need to be a sustainable business.
Listen, I think you said it perfectly. I really like some of those slogans potentially. I mean, obviously, listen, for a cup of coffee, invest in local news. I think that's a great pitch for you. And I think you said it really, really well, man. We spend so much money on streaming. I know I look at, between Netflix. I mean, obviously, there's a barter system with me and my friends. Like, I have my best friend give me her Disney Plus. She gets my Amazon. I get Netflix. I get somebody else's Hulu. They use my Prime. So you're right.
Let's just hope Netflix's copyright lawyers aren't watching.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, I mean, it's at a point where the usernames and passwords are now getting very scarce now. Like, my mom and dad have like certain hours of the day where they watch my Netflix, and then, hey, I want to watch a little bit too. But to your point, yes, listen, I think it's important. We do need sustainable business models. And to your point about, obviously you've been doing this for some years now. Certainly, I know you haven't been, many people at Grove Street have not been a fan of you, but there's no denying, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, they shouldn't be fans of mine. I mean, it's not my job to be liked. My job is to be disliked by them, because I'm going to.
No, listen, you're right. I think it's imperative that we have access to these local news. Obviously, the Jersey Journal's been around for over 150 years. Yes, you're right. Notwithstanding my dislike for Ron Zentlinger and Josh Rosario, the Journal served a purpose for over a century, and it's tragic. And I think it's where now, for example, the Hudson County View, the Tap Intos in Jersey City, Hoboken, Bayonne, collectively, yourself, I think this is where it's the time to thrive, where local news, again, we're not reading papers like we used to. This is where digital media, independent media, I think now more than ever is really crucial. Before we call it a night, man, we'll be doing this show in a couple weeks again. I'm looking at the traffic here, some nice views so far. Folks, again, do us a favor. Make sure you check out the Jersey City Times. Go to their website, jcitytimes.com. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. And why not subscribe? He's right. We're always going to Starbucks or a 7-Eleven or a Quick Check. Hey, you know what? One less cup of coffee, one less donut. Let's kind of get summer ready. Let's, one less bagel or whatever.
I like that. Yeah.
Sure. What can we look forward to in the next couple of weeks, man? What other stories maybe are you covering?
Well, there's going to be more on CarePoint and Christ Hospital. There's going to be more on that. There's going to be something coming out on SciTech City, something we didn't talk about, but some people may remember that there's a big project right next to the park, right next to Liberty Science Center, called SciTech City. So I'm going to have an article about SciTech City coming out. Those are the two that I'm excited about. And then we've just got a ton of stuff coming in every day. People are coming to us all the time with stories now. So we're busy.
I'm looking forward to that. And folks, again, on the flip side here on Real Talk via the Jersey First TV this Monday Night Live, the guy who I call the Dean of Hudson County Journalism, Al Sullivan, who works for Tap Into Jersey City, Hoboken, and beyond, will join me for an hour. We'll be talking about Hudson County politics, the ongoing civil war within the Hudson County Democrat organization, obviously the municipal races in Hoboken, Jersey City, and much more. Folks, tune in this Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Jersey First Network for the latest edition of Real Talk. Folks, again, check out the Jersey City Times by going to jcitytimes.com. Make sure you follow them on Twitter and Instagram. Also like them on Facebook. Same thing with me, folks. Make sure you like Real Talk, obviously on Jersey First TV. Follow us, obviously, on Instagram and Twitter. Check out our YouTube page. And, folks, we'll be coming back in a couple of weeks here for more of the insightful conversation you've seen tonight. Folks, if it's about Jersey City, we're talking about it here with Aarron Morrill and Fernando Uribe on Talking Jersey City. Folks, we'll see you in a couple of weeks here on YouTube, Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on Twitter. Share the links, folks. It takes 2 seconds to show your support for local journalism and local commentary. We'll see you next week. We'll see you in a couple of weeks here on Talking Jersey City.